Diddy parties. Those are parties. And I was one of the kids that was one of the party favors. And a party favors means that you're set on top of a table and you're used as a toy for anybody who comes across the table or who wants to party at a certain time of night when the music stops and then the DJ starts flashing all these lights and they
in this industry, what you must understand is when you do sell your soul, you are allowed to live forever. And these people that are called youngins, rookies, new booties, I would no idea that these people still live.
Ron Jeremy, Denzel Washington, Beyonce Knowles, Ellen DeGeneres, Whoopi Goldberg, Lady Gaga, Chrissy Teigen, John Legend, Joan Rivers, Rob Saget. Do you want me to keep going?
I mean, yo, Diddy, you gave me the oosh-gosh goosh-mash. You get the shoosh-mash.
What?
You, your mama, your daughter, and everything.
Will make you buckle, bro. They make you buckle, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, cause man, people done lost their families, bro. People done lost their kids and shit. People, Diddy, you gave me the oosh-gosh goosh-mash. You gave me the oosh-gosh muap, the shoosh-mash. Diddy. Yeah, son. You know what I mean? You gave me the oosh-gosh muash. I love it, yo. I love it. You gave me the oosh-gosh muash.
And
that oosh-gosh muash. You know what I'm talking about, Diddy? And people, adults, the moms, the dads, right there on Target commercials, right there on Walmart commercials, and you're looking at the people that are missing and they're smiling like they're happy, but they're going back to hell. You know, I just think that, you know, people just need to realize what they're looking at when they're watching the television. Everything is right in front of you. The revolution was televised and don't nobody.
You smashed them when it was girls?
I didn't smash anything.
So how you know
we
that?
made love. We made love. That's
Who you made love with?
Diddy, Bow Wow, Busta Rhymes.
You just told me you seen Busta in the airport too. That motherfucker tried to act like he didn't know you. You smashed Drake?
No, I never smashed.
Oh, you made love to Drake.
And Cat Williams. What's his name?
Bro, you smashing a lot of people.
What's that name? Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Usher. Usher's a gusher. And
why you not naming off?
I'm telling you, bro, it's my dad's friends. My dad sicked his baddest friends on me.
Who's your dad?
Lucifer.
that people take pride in sticking bars up children. I don't think people are going to be able to stomach the fact that people tie 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old children to horse stables and have horses and dogs with them, and then they get off on that. I don't think people are going to be able to stomach the fact that people hang children upside down in satanic ritual meetings, and they literally hang them. Literally, by metal prongs, they hang them to get dripping out of them, and people go up under and like you're under a rainfall.
You get pressured, attacked, stalked, and hunted down for your own information. You get abused and re-victimized again by people who wanted to argue a back and forth this week like that fucking mattered. Okay, you had Stu Peters and Timothy Charles Homestead going back and forth, and nobody has even bothered. Not that I give a damn, and not that I understand that you guys are gonna be that selfish, but nobody has bothered to apologize for all the hell that has happened. But you guys were arguing back and forth, and in that meantime, we lost our home. You don't believe me? Here you go. What once was a full house, we were still paying rent on our house. What we were doing this whole time was moving everything because our house is gone. Our house is gone. This is the speaking out. What was our beautiful 3-bedroom acre home on 21225 Standing Rock Avenue, because everybody has the address, because organizations that were attached to Marx, Sawyer, and many other organizations decided to put out the address, my license plate to one of my cars, and many other of my. So here you go. You can have it, right? Because this is what happens when you speak out. This is what happens when you tell all the truth. This is what happens when you decided to stand up for the children. And when you understand that survivors don't just get to do a seminar. And when you understand that survivors don't just get to just be and then show up somewhere and talk and monetize everything that they're saying. When you realize that that's bullshit, then you will understand. Look at the tactics and pay attention. Pay attention. I'm still not asking you for a damn thing but to wake up. I'm not asking you for a damn thing but just to get outside. I don't give a damn about money, numbers on my platforms. You can have all of it. You took everything. The only thing that I give a shit about right now is the fact that there is a baby in the way. There's babies in the way. There are people that I love that I can't get out of the way. What am I supposed to do when the people in the authority that you're supposed to go to, you can't go for things about the victims? Nobody. The victims' lives get turned around when the predators' lives want to just get announced. You slap them on the wrist and you bring up every source of trauma for the victim. But nobody wants to stop and think about that. We're not talking about the victims that are still going through this right now with other people who are running to cover their and deleting their social. And I don't know if they even got through all of those witnesses, but Maureen Comey is the prosecutor of this case, on this case in New York City. And she never asked about the children. And, you know, there's so many people who wanted me to be a witness on this trial. And I want to explain jurisdiction.
Hollywood has always sold us a fantasy. Fame, fortune, and endless parties. But what if some of those parties were hiding something far darker? In the middle of the growing controversy surrounding Diddy's alleged freak-offs, two deeply polarizing figures, Orlando Brown and Ally Carter, have resurfaced with claims so disturbing that even longtime industry watchers weren't prepared for them. They're not just talking about excess or exploitation. They're alleging secret rituals, underage abuse, and a system that allegedly chews up young talent and spits them out broken. And whether you believe them or not, the similarities in their stories are forcing people to ask an uncomfortable question. Why do so many former child stars spiral the same way? And who was really in the room when it all started? Hollywood is in the middle of a reckoning, and whether the industry wants to admit it or not, the cracks are getting harder to cover. Ever since allegations surrounding Diddy's private parties began circulating more widely, the conversation has shifted from gossip to something far more unsettling, a growing sense that these stories aren't isolated, but connected. What once sounded like whispered rumors are now being echoed by people who, despite their public controversies, share eerily similar experiences. And that's where Orlando Brown and Ally Carter come in, not as random internet personalities chasing attention, but as two individuals whose lives followed disturbingly parallel paths after early exposure to powerful industry spaces. Their stories don't shock simply because of how extreme they sound. They shock because they overlap in ways that feel unplanned, uncoordinated, and deeply uncomfortable. For years, Orlando Brown has been treated as a punchline, another former child star who lost it in public. Ally Carter, meanwhile, has been dismissed by many as a conspiracy theorist saying things people don't want to hear. But when you strip away the memes, the viral clips, and the internet commentary, what's left are two people describing the same environment from different angles. Elite Hollywood parties, minors allegedly being present, powerful names moving freely, and a culture that allegedly normalizes exploitation while protecting those at the top. Neither Orlando nor Ally built their public images around credibility or polish, yet their claims intersect on details that don't rely on each other to exist. Different timelines, different platforms, same alleged patterns. What makes this moment different is context. The public is no longer hearing these stories in a vacuum. They're hearing them against the backdrop of lawsuits, sealed documents, resurfaced interviews, and a renewed willingness to question how much the industry has buried under fame and money. When Orlando talks about being used shortly after leaving a Disney set, and Ally talks about being taken as a teenager into secretive environments, she says we're controlled by industry figures. The overlap forces a harder question than are they believable? The real question becomes, why do so many people who enter Hollywood young describe the same destruction afterward? And why do their stories only start to sound possible once a major figure is already under fire? This isn't about deciding guilt in a courtroom or crowning anyone a hero. It's about recognizing a pattern that keeps resurfacing whenever Hollywood is forced to look at itself. The stories coming from Orlando Brown and Ally Carter aren't shocking because of how outrageous they are online today. They're shocking because they fit too neatly into a long history of former insiders saying the same thing after their careers collapse. And as the industry scrambles to control the narrative surrounding Diddy and others, these two voices, messy, damaged, and controversial, are suddenly sitting at the center of a conversation no one wants to have, but everyone is starting to hear. Orlando Brown was once the kind of kid Hollywood loves to bet on. He wasn't just another child actor. He was everywhere. Disney gave him visibility, Nickelodeon gave him range, and industry insiders openly talked about him as a future leading man. During the height of That's So Raven, Orlando wasn't struggling for roles or relevance. He was positioned as part of the next generation that would smoothly transition from child stardom into adult success. He had the look, the timing, and the machine behind him. From the outside, his future looked locked in. But almost as quickly as that promise solidified, it collapsed. After his Disney run ended, the headlines changed. Arrests began stacking up. Mugshots replaced red carpets. Erratic interviews, disturbing audio clips, and public outbursts slowly turned Orlando from a former fan favorite into a cautionary tale the internet laughed at instead of listened to. The contrast was jarring. How does someone go from being groomed for superstardom to unraveling this publicly, this completely? And more importantly, what happened in the years we didn't see? For a long time, the easiest explanation was substance abuse. That's the narrative Hollywood is comfortable with. A talented kid who couldn't handle fame. But as Orlando's behavior grew more chaotic, cracks began forming in that explanation. His breakdowns didn't feel random. They felt triggered. His anger seemed pointed. And eventually, he stopped talking about drugs and started talking about people. That's when the story shifted. Orlando began alleging that his downfall wasn't accidental, and that his time as a young actor placed him in environments no minor should have been in. According to him, powerful industry figures allegedly crossed boundaries, applied pressure, and normalized behavior that would later destroy him. Suddenly, the same man everyone dismissed as crazy was framing his chaos as the aftermath of exploitation, not the cause of it. The turning point came when Orlando started naming experiences instead of just lashing out. He claimed that shortly after leaving Disney, he was allegedly pulled into private industry spaces where power dynamics were clear and consent was not. He spoke about being young, vulnerable, and surrounded by adults who controlled access to money, roles, and survival. His delivery was messy, sometimes incoherent, and often uncomfortable to watch, something critics quickly used to discredit him. But beneath the rambling and the laughter that didn't quite sound like humor, there was a consistent theme. He was trying to explain trauma while still living inside it. And for some viewers, that's when his story stopped sounding like random attention-seeking and started sounding like someone unraveling in public, because they never got to unravel in private. As Orlando continued talking, the allegations escalated, not through volume, but through implication. Each news statement raised the stakes, not because of how many names were mentioned, but because of what those names represented: influence, protection, silence. Online reaction split sharply. One side dismissed him entirely, pointing to his arrests and contradictions as proof he couldn't be trusted. The other side paused, uncomfortable with how quickly they'd laughed before. People began rewatching old clips with different eyes, noticing how often former child stars described the same emotional damage, the same loss of direction, the same spiral. Orlando became less of an outlier and more of a symptom, and that made people uneasy. That unease deepened when the focus shifted to Ally Carter. Unlike Orlando, Ally hadn't suddenly appeared with new claims. She'd been telling her story for years, largely ignored. She didn't come from a sitcom set, but her entry into alleged industry abuse was even younger. According to her, she was still a teenager when she was taken into environments she says were controlled, secretive, and designed to break people down. What made her story hit differently wasn't just her age, but her consistency. The details didn't change. The timelines didn't drift. While Orlando's story felt chaotic and raw, Ally's felt methodical, almost rehearsed, not in performance, but in survival. She spoke like someone who had been forced to remember everything because forgetting was never an option. As Ally described her experiences, the narrative widened beyond individual celebrities. She didn't just allege harm by one person, she described an alleged system. According to her claims, there were specific locations, rules, and structures that allowed abuse to happen repeatedly without interruption. She spoke about people being treated as disposable, about silence being enforced through fear, and about protection flowing upward to those with power. The focus shifted from shocking acts to an even more disturbing idea, that this wasn't chaos, but organization. And that's the moment where the story stopped being about whether Orlando Brown was credible or whether Ally Carter sounded extreme. It became about whether Hollywood has been hiding patterns in plain sight, and whether it only takes one high-profile downfall for everyone else's stories to suddenly sound possible. As Ally continued speaking out, the tone of her story shifted from exposure to fear. What had once been long-form interviews and detailed posts allegedly turned into warnings, panic, and sudden silence. She began claiming that she was being followed, that unfamiliar people were appearing around her home, and that pressure was mounting for her to stop talking altogether. According to Ally, the moment she became more specific and less controllable was the moment things allegedly escalated behind the scenes. She described feeling watched, hunted, and cornered, not by random trolls online, but by forces she believed had the power to make people disappear quietly. Then, almost overnight, she was gone from public view. No gradual fade out, no announcement, just an abrupt absence that only fueled more concern. To supporters, it felt like a thriller unfolding in real time. The whistleblower speaks, the threats begin, and suddenly the voice goes quiet. That fear only intensified when Ally later claimed she was placed into a form of protective custody and warned about continuing to speak publicly. According to her account, this wasn't protection that came with freedom, it came with boundaries. She alleged that she was told what she could say, who she could name, and what topics were considered too big. And that's where her affidavit enters the story, not as a dramatic finale, but as a pressure release. A sworn statement. A paper trail. Something that couldn't be brushed off as a live stream rant or emotional breakdown. In the affidavit, Ally allegedly detailed experiences she says occurred while she was underage, naming multiple high-profile figures as alleged participants or enablers. It was no longer just about one celebrity or one set of parties. It was about a network, a structure, and a culture she claimed was protected by money and influence. The seriousness of an affidavit changed everything, even while remaining allegations. Sworn statements carry weight because they come with legal risk, and Ally's decision to file one suggested she understood exactly what she was up against. At the same time, the affidavit raised another troubling question. If her claims were focused only on one powerful figure, would her testimony have moved forward differently? According to Ally, once it became clear that her account extended beyond a single target and into a broader web of alleged abuse, some involving minors, her role as a witness allegedly became inconvenient. The scope was too wide, the implications too damaging, and suddenly, the system that claims to protect victims appeared, in her telling, more concerned with containment than exposure. Public reaction mirrored the chaos of the story itself. Some people felt deep sympathy, seeing Ally and Orlando as damaged survivors who never stood a chance in an industry that profits off youth and silence. Others felt exhausted, overwhelmed by years of shocking claims online, and unsure who, or what to believe anymore. Skeptics questioned inconsistencies, mental health, and motives, while supporters argued that trauma rarely comes out clean or polished. And then there were those caught somewhere in the middle, disturbed not necessarily by every claim, but by how familiar the patterns felt. Former child stars spiraling. Whistleblowers facing intimidation. Powerful names never having to respond directly. The moral conflict wasn't just about belief. It was about what happens if people keep dismissing these stories and one day find out they weren't wrong. And that's where this story refuses to end neatly. Because the most uncomfortable part isn't deciding whether Orlando Brown or Ally Carter are perfect messengers. It's asking what it means if even a fraction of what they're alleging is true. What does it say about an industry that consistently produces the same broken outcomes? About a system where children rise fast, fall hard, and are mocked on the way down? Hollywood doesn't have to be a conspiracy to be dangerous. It just has to be powerful enough to protect itself. And until there are real answers, real transparency, and real accountability, these stories will keep resurfacing in different faces, different voices, and different breakdowns, forcing the same question over and over again. How many people have to fall apart before we admit something was wrong long before they ever spoke?